Hello everyone, my name is Steve. Welcome back to episode 6 of Sneaky Programming. Today we're going to be building a car dealership program, as I stated in the last video. And to get started, we're going to make some changes to the car class. We want to be able to purchase things at our dealership, and so we're going to need money to purchase with. So in the car class, we're going to add a new variable to it for cost, and we're going to use a float for it so that we can use decimal points. So we're going to do private float cost, and then we need to adjust this constructor here that we made so that when we're making a new car, we define how much it costs. So just say float cost, and down here, this dot cost equals cost. Good. Now remember, we have to make a getter and setter. We have one for make, we have one for model, we have one for color, and we have the setter as well here for color. We're going to make another one, public float get cost, and we want to return cost. Simple, right? Next thing we want to do is add something to the toString here. Plus, and we're going to say cost is cost, just like that. And we'll add a set cost as well, just in case we ever need something like that. This dot cost equals cost. Very good. That should be working just fine. And now you can see we're getting some errors, and the errors we're getting are related to the car constructor, because remember, we changed it to need a cost, and here these don't have a cost. So we're going to change something up here. We're going to grab these two and copy them up to here in the constructor, and I think we can just clear out the rest of this for now. We'll come back to that later. And then we're going to make something up here. We're going to make some instance variables. Right, remember, instance variables up here in the car class, we have these instance variables. They're not in a constructor, they're not in a function, they're just part of the class. We're going to make some for app. We're going to make one of type list car. Your cars equals new list car, like that. Now what's that doing? Well, list is a class that allows us to have exactly what it says, a list of variables. So you know, you could do float x, float y, float z, or you could do all of them in a row like that if you define them. But of course, this is kind of inefficient when you get into things like float car 1, car 2, car 3, car 4. That's not the best way of doing things. You can use something called a list of these cars, right? So we can make a list of the user's cars, and then we're going to make another list of the dealer cars. Just like that. And then we're going to initialize the money that the user has. And we'll say 80,000. So that's fine for our purposes. And now, ordinarily how we make a car is we say car, first car equals new car, right? But how do we put this variable inside a list? Well, we take dealer cars and we say dot add. We can add an object to the list, and we could put in here first car, and that'd work fine, but we can also not even do this step. We can put them both into one step. So we're going to say new car, and in here we're going to make a Honda Civic of car color dot blue, and we'll say 28,000. Should be fine. And then we can just copy this, and we'll do it 3 more times, like that. We can get rid of these ones. And then you can just fill out the rest of these cars. So I'm going to do a Jeep Wrangler black for 39,760. And then we're going to do a Toyota RAV4. And again, you can put anything at all in these strings and in here for values. This is just some values that I have prepared. Remember to finish all of these with F though for float. And we'll do a Dodge Charger in red. And F, there we go. So now the dealership is set up with its inventory. These are the cars that the dealership has. So now come down here to the start method. And we'll just say hello to the user. Welcome to the car dealership. And we'll say you have available. So tell them how much money they have available. Remember, you have $ plus money will be 80,000. Space available. You have $80,000 available. That's what that's going to say in the console. And we'll say right line. We have plus dealer cars dot count. Dot count of a list is how many things are in that list. Pretty self-explanatory. So it's going to be 4, right? So we have 4 things. So we have 4 cars available for purchase. They are, and then we'll just loop through everything. So we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than dealer cars dot count I plus plus. Console dot right line I plus 1 plus closing bracket space plus dealer cars dot I dot toString, just like that. Now this is a big one. What is this doing? Well, let's break it down piece by piece. First of all, we have this keyword for. Now you might see it's the same color as, say, an if statement, right? It's a statement. It's a statement that is conditional in nature, as we declare a new variable, right? This is simple, you know about this. We've declared a new variable before. This is an integer, we're calling it I. The reason we call it I is just programming convention. Other common ones are J or K. I is just convention that we do with. Then this next statement, you can see we have a semicolon that separates the statement. So the next statement here is I less than dealer cars dot count. So currently I is 0, dealer cars dot count is 4, right? So this is going to return true. While this is returning true, this will execute, right? So what we do is we say, okay, is I still less than dealer cars dot count? Yes? Okay. Then run this, and then run this statement, I plus plus. Now, plus plus in programming is just I equals I plus 1. That's all that is. I plus plus is the shorthand for that. You could also do I plus equals 1, but you could also do that with any number, whereas I plus plus is just for 1. You can also do that with minus or anything like that. So I plus plus will increase it by 1 every time. So we start at 0. We say, is it less than count? Yes, okay. So run this, and now increase it to 1. We're going to check again. Is it less than 0? 1 is less than 0. So yes, run it, increase, run it, increase. Eventually, I will be equal to 4, right? So this is going to say false. It is not less than. So we're going to stop, and we're going to come down here. We're going to start running code over here. This code is all that will run until it's done. Then we go down here. That's a for loop. There are a couple types of loops, and we'll go into more of them later. But for now, that's a pretty commonly used loop. It's a for loop. So make a new variable, int to purpose, set that equal to 0. ourselves some room, and we'll do an if statement here. We're going to check if the dealer cars dot count is not equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, then they have something to sell, right? So we're going to say right line. Please enter the number of the car you would like to purchase. Pretty simple. We can take some input now. Remember, this is how we're doing this. We're going to say console.readLine. And then we need to convert this from a string into an integer, right? We're storing it in toPurchase. The car we want to purchase is what we're trying to get here, so we have to convert it. And we're going to do something kind of fancy in shorthand. We're going to say if int dot try parse input out to purchase. Then we're going to just leave that blank for now. Put a not sign in front of this. This is the exclamation point is the not, right? You saw it up here, not equal to, when two equal sign is equal to, turn one of them, the first one into exclamation point, that means not equal to. So if not, try parse. Now what's this? This isn't actually as complex as it looks. This is the statement itself, right? And this is what it's doing. It's taking the string input and it's trying to parse it into the integer toPurchase. The output is going to toPurchase. So try parse input into toPurchase. Try parse is a function. If you hover over it, you can see it's a function of type Boolean, right? Up here is a void. If it was a Boolean, it would look like that. This is a Boolean function, which means it returns either true or false. So what we're checking here is if this returns true, then skip this code. So if this does not return true, right? If this returns true, and if not, this returns true. So if it is not true, so if it fails to parse, the reason it would fail to parse is, say for input, you just type the letter A. It's going to try and convert that to an integer, and it's going to fail, so it's going to return false. If you typed a 1, it's going to succeed, it's going to return true. So if it returns false, you didn't put a number in. So we want to tell the user that they didn't put a number in. How do we do that? Well, we'll make a new function here, just to kind of help us out. It's going to be a private void named restart. And it's going to take in a string parameter. We'll just call it message. Inside here, we want to say console.writeLine message. And we want to say console.writeLine press any key to continue. Dot there. And then we want to say console.read key. Now, familiar down here with read line, right? Read key is just anytime a key is pressed, it's going to activate, right? And when it does, we just want to call start and call, remember, environment.exit0. That from the last time when it kept on failing. We have to make sure we include this. So now down here, we want to call that. We want to call restart, and the message we're going to send is going to be please enter a number. Because remember, if the parsing failed, they did not enter a number. So we have to let them know to enter a number, and then it's going to restart for them so that they can try again. That's it for this if statement. Now we want to make an else statement to accompany it. Remember, an else statement is if this is true, this will run. Otherwise, so if this is false, if the dealer does not have any cars left, we want to restart and say, sorry, we are all sold out. Pretty simple, right? Okay. Now here, say if toPurchase is greater than dealercars.count. So what this is saying is if we're trying to purchase something that doesn't exist, right? So we have 4 cars, right? Over here, we're outputting 1 bracket, the car, 2 bracket, the car, so on and so forth. So we should only have between 1 and 4, right? People should put in 1, 2, 3, or 4. What happens if they put in 5? That's what this failsafe is for. It's just going to very simply reset. There's a lot of different ways you could handle this error, but that's just a very simple way that we're going to do for now. And now we get down, we're done with all of the error checking, and we're going to actually get into making it work. So to do that, I'm going to say dealer cars to purchase -1 dot get cost less than equal to money. Okay, what's this doing? Well, dealer cars is a list of cars, right? These square brackets are going to tell us to look inside of that list at the index value of whichever one we want to purchase. So if we want to purchase the first one, we'll put it on 1, and it'll tell us to search at 1. But that's a problem. Computers start counting at 0. We want to be checking at 0 when we input 1. We want to be checking at 1 when we input 2. So that's why we're also putting in this -1. And then we just check if the cost of that car is less than the money we have, or equal to the money we have, in which case the purchase will go through. So we will subtract from money. Again, minus equals is just money equals money minus. The shorthand is just minus equals dealer cars to purchase -1 dot get cost. Right? Subtract whatever it costs from our available funds. Then add it to our cars. Dealer cars to purchase -1. And then dealer cars we want to remove. So we'll remove -1, do it again. Just like that. Pretty simple. And then we need to take us back to the menu. So we'll call restart with thank for your purchase. Just like that. We want to make an else statement here. Remember, this is if you can afford the car, so we want to make one of if you can't afford the car. It's just a simple restart with if you cannot afford that vehicle. There we go. So let's run this. Let's see what happens. And as you can see, we're now in the dealership. If we move this over, you can see it's working properly. We're writing line welcome to the dealership. 80,000, again, we set it to 80,000. 4 cars available. And you can see them being output. This part's kind of more difficult to comprehend, so let's take a look at that. Remember in this for loop, doing it 1 for each car. We start by outputting I plus 1. Remember, this is because we begin counting at 0. So when we're on the 0th car, we want to say 1. So we're outputting 1, and then a bracket and a space, which you can see right there. And then we just output the to string, which again we modified to include the cost. Very simple. Then it says, please enter the number of cars you'd like to purchase. That's this line right here. So let's try out the errors. Let's not enter a number. We're just going to enter the letter A. Hit enter. It tells us to enter a number. That's this right here. Press any key to continue, and it brings us back to the start. So let's try buying something now. Let's buy the charger. Alright, around $30,000 with 80,000 available. It says thanks for your purchase, and you can see the charger is removed from their list. It goes down to 4, and the money is updated accordingly. Now let's see what happens if we buy the first item in the list. What should happen is this thing will be listed as number 1. This will be listed as number 2. Let's do that. Thanks for your purchase. The money goes down. There's 2 cars available, and this works just fine. This is well-made user interface so far. Now you can see we only have 20,000 left, and the cheapest car costs 28. Let's try to buy it anyway. And they're going to let us know that we can't afford that, and just to show, error handling is still perfectly functional. There's only one more thing we could really seek to add other than proper UI, which would be a way to get out of the program. Because at the moment, you have to stop debugging or run the X, and there's more graceful ways to do that. So at this point in time, when we're doing this, before we try to parse it, let's just make another check. Say if input equals quit, or input equals exit, environment.exit 1. Let's take a look at that. Run this, and what it's asking is what we want to purchase. We'll just put quit, and you can see exited with code 1. Very good. That's all working perfectly now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have any questions, anything you need to ask whatsoever, leave it in the comments below or join the Discord. I hope you learned something, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.